A powerful female CEO dismisses a quiet single father as just a last-minute driver. But in 8 days, he exposes a decades-long theft, saves her life, reveals he owns 17% of her company, and makes her question everything she thought she built. The truth was never hers alone. The morning Catherine Hale's world began to unravel started the way most catastrophes do, quietly and without warning. It was 6:17 in the morning when Grace knocked on her office door. Catherine was already at her desk on the 42nd floor, coffee untouched, eyes scanning a pressure map of a week that could not afford a single failure. 3 investor groups, a due diligence session, a regional logistics summit, a full board presentation on Thursday. And underneath all of it, the quiet, dangerous sound of powerful men organizing against her in rooms she was not invited to. She was 31 years old, the youngest chief executive in the 40-year history of Hale Motion Group, and she had not slept more than 4 hours on any single night in the past 3 weeks. Grace stepped in with the expression of someone delivering a diagnosis. Thomas, her driver of 4 years, had been in an accident before dawn. 2 broken ribs, a separated shoulder. He would not be behind a wheel for 6 weeks. The company's backup vehicle had been pulled for a systems check the previous afternoon and had not been returned. The technician who signed it out was not answering his phone. Catherine set her coffee down with precise, deliberate calm. Volume was a tool used by people who had already lost the argument. She looked at Grace without blinking. "Fix it," she said. "I leave at 8:45. Grace Holloway was not a woman who accepted defeat. But by 8:15 that morning, she had exhausted every reliable option. Executive car services were booked. The 2 freelance drivers Catherine had pre-approved were unavailable. The 3rd name on her emergency list had relocated to another city. With 23 minutes remaining, Grace called the operational logistics partner the company used for last-mile coordination. The dispatcher paused, then offered a single name. Aaron Brooks, contract work, clean record, available. Grace sent the address. He arrived at 8:38, dark gray sedan, leased, spotless. He stepped out wearing a white button-down shirt that had been pressed but was not new, dark trousers, and leather shoes polished enough to respect the occasion, but not enough to suggest he was trying to impress anyone. He was 34 years old, medium height, with the kind of face that gave very little away, composed in a way that required effort to maintain. The look of a man who had practiced being unreadable for a long time. Catherine looked at him for exactly 3 seconds in the lobby. Then she looked at Grace. "This is the best option we had?" Grace met her gaze without flinching. "This is the only option we had." Catherine said nothing further. She walked past him toward the car. In the car, she did not look up from her briefing notes. Aaron pulled out of the underground bay, checked his mirrors, and merged into morning traffic with a fluency that was not flashy, but was immediately noticeable. He did not accelerate too early. He did not check his phone. He left exactly the right amount of space between vehicles. He changed lanes twice without instruction, and both shifts shaved minutes off the route in ways only someone with a detailed, almost studied understanding of how this section of the city moved could have known. She noticed. She did not acknowledge it. 2 blocks from their first destination, Aaron said quietly, "There's a motorcycle that has been behind us since the garage. 3 vehicles back. It has matched our last 4 lane changes." Catherine looked up. Through the rear window, the bike was visible, unhurried, present. Aaron changed lanes twice in rapid succession, turned east, looped back through a parallel street. The motorcycle did not reappear. They arrived with 4 minutes to spare. When Catherine stepped out and turned back through the open door, he met her eyes without expression. "You were followed for about 6 blocks," he said. "Probably press." "Probably nothing," she said. "But worth noting." She almost asked how he had learned to watch for that kind of thing. Instead, she walked into the building without looking back. The first real sign came before their second meeting of the morning. As Catherine's party approached the elevator bank of a private equity firm, a man in a gray suit extended a folder with a pen already uncapped. "A preliminary confidentiality acknowledgement," he said. "Standard procedure, required before the session could begin." Aaron was standing 2 steps behind and to her left, the position of someone who understood perimeter placement. He stepped close enough to say, near her ear, "The 3rd page. Check whether it matches the front." Catherine paused. The associate smiled and said it was entirely standard. She opened to the 3rd page anyway. It was not the same document. The interior clauses extended far beyond any standard agreement and included a provision restricting her ability to discuss certain operational details with outside auditors for 36 months. A clause designed to be missed. Written to be signed quickly, in the pressure of a professional setting, by someone who trusted the people handing her the pen. She handed the folder back without signing. The associate's smile did not change, but something behind his eyes did. In the car afterward, Catherine said without turning, "How did you know to check the 3rd page?" Aaron kept his eyes on the road. "The man handing it to you was watching your hands, not your face. People who hand you legitimate paperwork watch your face. People who hand you a trap watch where you put your pen." The silence that followed was not uncomfortable. It was the silence of someone recalibrating. By midday, Catherine's head of security, Sebastian Reed, had pulled the lobby camera footage and found Grace at her desk. He had watched the footage 3 times. He had watched the way Aaron entered a room, the pattern of his scan at each threshold, the way his eyes had clocked Sebastian himself within the first 30 seconds without appearing to look. He had watched Aaron's hand drift almost imperceptibly to check the nearest exit before Catherine stepped into the elevator. "Who ran his background check?" Sebastian asked. "The logistics partner. Standard process." "Run it again," Sebastian said. "Independently. Dig further back." Grace asked why. "Because that man has been trained," Sebastian said, "not for driving." The collision came at the end of the 2nd day. It was quiet. It was worse for being quiet. Catherine had a habit, built across years of managing people paid to accommodate her, of treating a schedule as something that could be revised whenever the work demanded. Her previous driver had never pushed back, not once. She had come to believe this was simply how things worked when you held the position she held. Aaron did not appear to have received that understanding. They were outside a hotel ballroom at 7:40 in the evening. A regional investor dinner had run long. Catherine told him flatly that she needed him to stay another 90 minutes. He said, "I need to pick up my daughter at 8. She looked at him the way she looked at things that were not supposed to be obstacles. "You're working." "I'm aware of that," Aaron said. "My daughter's pickup time is 8. "Arrangements can be made." "The arrangement I made," he said, with no edge in his voice, no performance of defiance, simply the steady weight of a fact being stated, "is that I pick her up at 8. A pause opened between them, 4 seconds, long enough to carry meaning. "A father's availability to his child," he said, "is not negotiable." Around them, 2 hotel staff members had slowed their movement. A junior associate from Catherine's team stood nearby, suddenly very interested in her phone. The words had carried, not shouted, not delivered for an audience, but heard. Catherine felt something she was not accustomed to feeling in professional settings. She felt incorrect. Not outmaneuvered, not challenged, simply, plainly, factually incorrect in the way she had framed the exchange. She had spoken to him the way she spoke to people who existed to accommodate her schedule, and he had responded the way a person responds when they know their own worth without needing anyone to confirm it. She told him to go. Her voice was even. She stood outside the hotel and arranged a car through the concierge and sat in the back of it, alone, turning the conversation over in her mind the way you turn over something small and surprisingly heavy, unsure of what it is made of, but certain it is not nothing. She had been in this industry for 9 years. She had faced board members who wanted her removed, investors who doubted her, executives who had underestimated her in rooms where underestimating her had cost them considerably. No one had ever spoken to her the way Aaron Brooks had just spoken to her. Not with cruelty, not with disrespect, with the quiet, immovable certainty of a man who knew exactly who he was. And somehow, in the back of a stranger's car, moving through a city she ran, that was the thing she could not stop thinking about. She did not know yet what his last name meant. She did not know yet that the company she had inherited, the one she was fighting so hard to keep, had been built on a foundation that included a name being deliberately kept from her. She did not know that the man she had just dismissed in front of a hotel full of people had been watching Hale Motion Group from the outside for years, waiting for exactly the right moment and the right person. She had not slept well. Catherine Hale lay in the dark of her apartment at 2:14 in the morning, staring at the ceiling with the particular wakefulness of someone whose mind had refused to stop working long after their body had asked it to. The city hummed outside her floor-to-ceiling windows. 42 floors below, the streets moved in their quiet, nocturnal rhythm, indifferent and continuous. She kept returning to the same moment. Not the fraudulent paperwork, not the motorcycle in the mirror, not the week's accumulating pressure pressing against her from every direction. The moment outside the hotel. Aaron's voice. 4 words that had not been delivered as a challenge and had landed harder than any challenge she had ever received. A father's availability is not negotiable. She had managed hundreds of people across her career. She had learned very early that authority was not simply a position on an organizational chart. It was a quality, something carried in the body, in the voice, in the way a person occupied a room. She had spent years cultivating it, refining it, until it had become so natural that she no longer thought about it. Aaron Brooks had not tried to assert authority over her. He had simply operated from a place so grounded, so entirely his own, that her authority had passed over him like weather over stone. That was what she could not stop thinking about. She sat up at 2:30, opened her laptop, and pulled the preliminary background file Grace had compiled. Clean record. Contract work through a logistics coordination firm, no institutional affiliations, no notable professional history she could trace. A daughter named Chloe, 7 years old. She stared at the screen for a long time. Then she closed the laptop and told herself to sleep. She did not sleep. The third morning began with fog over the city and a tension in the air that Catherine had learned to read the way sailors read cloud formations. Something was shifting. She could feel it in the temperature of her inbox, in the careful phrasing of a message from one of the board members she had previously considered neutral, in the fact that Lucas Bennett had sent her a meeting request for Friday with a subject line that read simply, "Transition planning." He had not asked, he had scheduled. She deleted the request without responding and went downstairs to the car. Aaron was already there, engine running, mirrors adjusted, the interior at the precise temperature she had mentioned preferring exactly once, 3 days ago, in a comment she had not directed at him. She got in without speaking. He pulled into traffic. After 4 blocks, he said, without preamble, Lucas Bennett met with 2 of your institutional representatives last night. Private dinner. The Meridian Club on Hargrove Street. 11 covers. Wine that cost more than most people's weekly salary. Catherine went very still. How do you know that? The Meridian Club uses a third-party reservation system. The booking was made under a holding company name that roots back to Bennett's operational infrastructure, if you know where to look. She turned to look at him directly for the first time that morning. And you know where to look. He kept his eyes on the road. I've been watching this company for a long time. It was the first time he had said anything like it. Direct, unguarded. A door opened a precise and calculated inch. She wanted to push it wider. Something in his expression told her the timing was not yet right. She turned back to the window and filed the sentence in the part of her mind reserved for things that required returning to. The danger came without announcement. They were on the lower section of an elevated connector road at 9:47 that evening, descending toward a signalized intersection after a late strategic partner dinner. The road was largely clear. The city spread below them in its grid of light and shadow. Aaron pressed the brake at the standard entry point for the descent. The pedal responded, then yielded. Not completely, not dramatically, but fractionally. Specifically wrong in a way that most drivers would not have caught until it was too late. His hands moved without announcing the emergency. One adjusted position on the wheel. The other shifted gear in a way that engaged the engine brake without any visible urgency. He guided the car to the far right of the lane, using the shoulder gradient to generate friction, holding speed through a sequence of micro-corrections so precise and so quiet that a passenger could have mistaken it for careful driving on a wet road. At the base of the descent, he brought the car into a bus lay-by and stopped. Catherine looked up from her phone. His voice had a quality she had not heard in it before. Not alarmed, not theatrical. The flat, deliberate tone of someone operating in a mode that had nothing to do with driving. He was already outside, crouched near the rear wheel arch with his phone light. 40 seconds. He came back and leaned against the driver's door, arms crossed, looking out at the road they had just descended. His face was unreadable, but something behind his eyes was doing rapid, methodical work. The brake system was tampered with, he said. Electronic control modulator. Someone got to the vehicle between when it was returned to the parking level and when we left tonight. The words arranged themselves in Catherine's mind with the cold clarity of something she had known was possible and had not wanted to make real. We were in that meeting for 2 hours, she said. 2 hours and 11 minutes. Enough time if you know the garage layout and which car. Sebastian arrived within 18 minutes. He examined the vehicle with the attention of someone who had once done this work for a government rather than a corporation. He confirmed the assessment without hesitation. It was not a defect, Sebastian said. It was a decision. He looked at Aaron when he said it, not with suspicion, with the focused, recalibrating attention of a man updating a conclusion he had been building toward for 3 days. Catherine sat on the low wall of the lay-by in the dark, her portfolio across her lap, the city humming at the edges of the silence around them. After a long moment, she said, "Someone wants me not to make it to the shareholder meeting." "Someone wants the outcome of that meeting decided without you in the room," Aaron said. "That is not quite the same thing, but close enough to treat as identical." She looked at him then, not with the clinical assessment of a superior evaluating a contractor, with the more involuntary attention of someone who has just realized that the person standing nearest to them is larger than they appeared and has been from the beginning. "You sound like someone who has been in that room before," she said. Aaron said nothing, but he did not look away. It was Grace who found the thread first. She had run the independent background check the way Sebastian asked, digging past the surface layer that had returned clean, moving further back through archived registries, probate databases, and industry records that had not been digitized until recently. What she found was not criminal. It was stranger than criminal. A record that had been carefully, systematically thinned, educational credentials appearing in one database and absent from another. A professional certification existing in an archived registry, but scrubbed from the current searchable version. Gaps of several years in his early adult history that no standard search would populate, and buried in a public probate filing more than a decade old, a reference to a trust instrument under the estate of one Daniel Brooks, with a named beneficiary identified only by initials, A.R.B. Aaron Rowe Brooks. Grace brought the file to Catherine that evening. Catherine sat with it, then opened the company's digital archive, a repository she had never explored in depth. Pre-public history, scanned documents, board minutes, and correspondence stretching back decades. The name Daniel Brooks appeared once, a memorandum from the company's third year of operation. He was referred to as a co-architect of the original distribution network and a signatory on the foundational operating agreement. He appeared nowhere else in the official history. Catherine searched external databases. In an academic logistics industry retrospective, buried in a footnote, she found a reference to a contested shareholder dispute from the company's earliest years. Two co-founders, a separation under disputed circumstances, Joseph Hale, and Daniel Brooks. Daniel Brooks had died 14 years ago, a sudden cardiac event. He had been 51 years old. The probate record showed a trust holding a portion of the original founding equity, a discretionary structure, with a beneficiary who would assume full control upon reaching the age of 30. Aaron Brooks was 34. Catherine sat at her desk for a very long time after that. The screen glow was the only light in the room. Outside, the city continued its indifferent business. Somewhere in it, a man she had dismissed in a hotel lobby, whose name she had not thought worth remembering on the morning she met him, was putting his 7-year-old daughter to bed. A man who carried, quietly and without announcement, a claim to the company Catherine had spent her entire professional life trying to protect. Then her phone buzzed, a message from Madison Cole, a financial reporter she had spoken to twice at industry events, known for sending things she could not yet print. The message read, "The man driving your car has a connection to your company's founding history that nobody in your building has told you about. Look carefully at the shareholder register before Thursday." Catherine set her phone face down on the desk. She stared at the ceiling. The man she had dismissed as a stopgap, a last-minute solution to a logistical inconvenience, the man she had spoken to in front of hotel staff as though his time belonged entirely to her. He did not simply have a connection to her company. He might be the most consequential person in it. And she had humiliated him in a corridor while people watched. The silence in the room was very complete. Outside, the city moved on, as cities do, without waiting for anyone to finish understanding what they had gotten wrong. She had a great deal to understand, and one day left before Thursday. She found him in the parking structure below the office at 7:45 the following evening. The space was nearly empty at that hour. Overhead lights buzzing at a low frequency, the city muffled somewhere above them, distant and indifferent. The air smelled of concrete and engine oil, and the particular stillness of a place that exists only to hold things waiting to move. Aaron was standing beside the car, jacket on, keys in hand. He had known this conversation was coming. There was a quality to his stillness that was different from his usual composure. Flatter, denser. The stillness of someone who has been waiting for a specific moment for a very long time and has just heard it arrive. Catherine did not approach it carefully. She had spent the last 18 hours being careful, and it had not helped her sleep or think or breathe any easier. "Daniel Brooks," she said. Tell me who he was to you." A moment passed. The overhead light buzzed once and held. "My father," Aaron said. She had already known it. The probate filing, the initials, the trust instrument had already assembled the answer before she asked the question. But hearing it said plainly, in that voice, in that parking structure, felt different than reading it in a document. It had weight that documents could not carry. "Tell me everything," she said. And he did. He did not speak quickly. He did not perform the telling. He stood beside the car in the dim light and laid it out the way a person lays out something they have carried alone for so long that the act of setting it down requires care, because they are no longer certain what shape it will hold when it is no longer supported by their own hands. His father and Joseph Hale had built the original company together, not as investor and operator, not as founder and consultant, as equals. Daniel Brooks had designed the logistics architecture from the ground up, the routing model, the hub distribution framework, the supplier protocols that still formed the operational spine of Hale Motion Group today, 14 years after his death. Every system Catherine had inherited, every network she had defended and fought for and built her career upon, had been conceived in Daniel Brooks's mind before it was ever executed under Joseph Hale's name. When outside capital arrived in the company's third year, Joseph brought in advisors. Among them, a young and extraordinarily well-connected financial strategist named Lucas Bennett. Over the following 2 years, the paperwork around the foundational equity had been revised, reinterpreted, in some cases, quietly backdated. Daniel, who had built his entire professional life on the assumption that the people he worked alongside operated in good faith, had signed documents presented to him as administrative, routine, nothing worth reading closely. By the time he understood what had happened, the controlling interest had migrated. His role as co-founder had been reduced, first in practice, then in record, then in the official history of a company that still ran on the infrastructure he had built. He had retained a portion, preserved by the original operating agreement, which predated all subsequent revisions and could not be undone without his signature. That portion had passed into a trust upon his death. Aaron had been 20 years old when his father died. He had spent the following 8 years piecing together the full scope of what had happened, moving carefully, quietly, accumulating documentation with the patience of someone who understood that legal weight depends not only on what evidence says, but on the coherence of its provenance. He had been closer than anyone in the building had known when everything changed. His wife, Elena, had been killed in a road accident on a Tuesday morning, a road she had driven 100 times without incident. The investigation had returned an inconclusive verdict. Aaron had looked at his 3-year-old daughter and made a decision. He had chosen quiet. Not from lack of courage, from an understanding that living invisibly was the only form of protection he could offer Chloe in a world where the people who had taken his father's legacy had already demonstrated what they were willing to do to preserve it. The parking structure was very still when he finished speaking. Catherine stood in the low light and felt the specific, irreversible sensation of a foundation shifting beneath something she had believed was solid. She had stepped into her role carrying the Hale name like a credential, like a compass, like proof that she belonged in the position she occupied. She had fought for this company with everything she had. She had been fighting for it without knowing what it was built on. "My great-uncle founded this company," she said. Her voice was even. It cost her something to keep it that way. "Joseph Hale's name is on the building," Aaron said, "but the building stands on infrastructure my father built. That fact was erased, not by accident, by design, by the same man who is currently positioning himself to acquire a controlling stake before Thursday." The anger that moved through Catherine was not directed at Aaron. It was directed inward. at the version of herself that had accepted the history she had been handed, that had stepped into a role whose foundations she now understood to be partially fraudulent, that had dismissed this man in a hotel corridor in front of witnesses because his schedule had inconvenienced hers. "You came back because of Lucas Bennett," she said, not a question. "He is not trying to improve this company," Aaron said. "He is positioning to acquire a controlling stake before the shareholder meeting. If he reaches that threshold, everything my father built gets restructured and sold in pieces to satisfy short-term return targets. I have the documentation. What I did not have, until recently, was someone on the inside with enough standing to make a difference." A silence opened between them. "You were testing me," Catherine said. "I was watching whether you were one of them," he said. "Whether you knew. Whether you were complicit or simply uninformed." He paused. "You're not one of them." "How long did it take you to decide that?" "The fraudulent paperwork on day one," he said. "You handed it back. You did not ask who had arranged it or why. You simply refused it. That told me something." He looked at her steadily. "The hotel told me something different, something more important." She did not ask him to explain. She already understood. A person willing to humiliate someone over a schedule was not the same as a person willing to examine why they had done it afterward. The first was ordinary. The second was rarer. "Show me the documentation," she said. He reached into the bag on the passenger seat and handed her a folder. She opened it under the parking structure light and began to read. They did not sleep that night. Not in any romantic sense. In the functional, urgent sense of two people who have identified a problem with a fixed deadline and have decided, without formally deciding, that solving it matters more than rest. Catherine brought Aaron up to the 38th floor conference room at 9:30. She pulled the access she needed from the company's legal archive. Aaron laid out his documentation on the long table in the sequence he had spent years preparing it. Trust instruments, probate filings, a chain of correspondence between Lucas Bennett and a series of offshore registered holding entities that Grace, when she arrived at Catherine's call just before midnight, traced back through 7 years of proxy movements in under 40 minutes. Sebastian came in at 11:15. He looked at the materials spread across the table for a long time. Then he looked at Aaron. "You should have led with this," Sebastian said. "I needed to be sure," Aaron said. Sebastian considered it, then nodded once. "Fair." What assembled itself across the surface of that table through the hours before dawn was not simply evidence. It was a complete and coherent picture. The original operating agreement predating all subsequent revisions, the founding equity allocation showing Daniel's stake, the probate filing establishing the trust instrument naming its beneficiary, the legal chain documenting how that trust had been preserved through 14 years of corporate restructuring, through audits and reorganizations, and the selective editorial process that had shaped the company's public history. And at the end of it, a current legal certification executed by independent counsel 72 hours prior, confirming that the trust was valid, enforceable, and that Aaron Rowe Brooks held voting rights representing 17% of Hale Motion Group's outstanding shares. Grace set her pen down when she finished reading that line. She looked at Catherine, then at Aaron, then back at the document as if rereading it might return a different answer. It did not. 17%. In a room where the margin between the current board majority and a viable challenge had been, before this morning, less than 4. Catherine stood at the window while the city outside moved from deep night into the gray uncertainty that precedes dawn. She was thinking about her father, about the company history she had been handed, about a pen on a windowsill with a compass rose engraved on its clip, worn smooth from years of being held by hands that had built something real and been erased for doing it. She turned from the window and looked at Aaron across the length of the table. He was watching her, patient, unhurried. The same quality of attention he had offered from the first morning in the lobby, when she had looked at him for 3 seconds and looked away. She had not looked away since. "Tomorrow," she said, "we walk into that room and we end this." Aaron looked at her for a long moment. "Together," he said. It was not a question. It was not a declaration. It was the word that forms when two people have been moving separately toward the same point for long enough that arriving there together feels less like a choice and more like a conclusion. Outside, the city was beginning to wake. Thursday had arrived. Thursday arrived the way consequential days always do. Ordinary on the surface, with nothing in the light or the air to signal that the hours ahead would divide everything into before and after. Catherine Hale was dressed and ready at 6:30 in the morning. Charcoal gray, clean lines. The kind of outfit that does not ask for attention, but commands it anyway. She stood at her window with coffee she actually drank this time and looked at the city below her and felt, for the first time in 3 weeks, something that was not dread. It was clarity. She had spent 3 weeks managing the feeling of a floor shifting beneath her feet. She had spent the last 48 hours understanding why it had been shifting and who had been doing the shifting. Those were two very different experiences, and the distance between them was the distance between drowning and swimming. The water was the same. The motion was entirely different. Her phone showed one message, sent at 6:14. No greeting, no punctuation beyond the period at the end. "We are ready. Aaron." She set the coffee down and picked up her portfolio. The meeting room on the 38th floor held 64 chairs, 3 projection screens, and a long oval table that had been designed, like most things in this building, to remind people of the distance between those who sat at it and those who stood against its walls. The room filled steadily from 8:45 onward. Institutional representatives, board members, compliance officers along the back wall. 2 individuals from the company's external legal firm, and Madison Cole, the financial reporter, seated along the side with a recorder running and the quiet, contained expression of someone who already knew the shape of the story and was waiting to watch it confirm itself. Lucas Bennett arrived at 8:55. He moved through the room the way he had moved through rooms for 4 decades, warmly, precisely, with the practiced ease of a man who had confused the performance of confidence with the substance of it for so long that he could no longer locate the difference. He worked the table before the session opened. Handshakes, names used correctly, laughter at the right moments. He was, by any external measure, entirely in control. He glanced at the door when Catherine entered at 9:13. He glanced again when Aaron entered behind her. Something moved through Bennett's expression. Not alarm, not yet. The mildly contemptuous amusement of a man watching a gesture he considers theatrical and beneath response. He said it loudly enough to carry. "Still bringing the driver to shareholder meetings, Catherine? That is a new one." The room responded the way rooms respond to that kind of comment when it comes from someone powerful. A ripple of suppressed smiles. A few people suddenly interested in their documents. The social machinery of deference operating exactly as it had been designed to operate. Catherine said nothing. She walked to her chair at the head of the table and set her portfolio down and looked at the room with the expression her staff had spent years learning to read correctly. Not calm, concentration. The expression of someone who has already seen the end of the conversation and is simply waiting for the room to catch up. Aaron sat along the side. He did not look at Bennett. He opened his folder and set it on the table in front of him and waited. The session opened with formalities: financial overview, previous minutes approved. The room maintained the charged, particular tension of people who have come to witness something and are waiting for it to begin. When the floor opened for shareholder business, Lucas Bennett moved immediately. He introduced a formal motion for executive leadership review, a board-level confidence assessment on the current CEO, a timeline for transition planning. It was clean, procedurally correct. Seconded by 2 proxy representatives he had positioned months in advance, his fingerprints invisible in the paperwork, but present in the timing, in the coordination, in the fact that both proxies reached for their papers at precisely the same moment. He had been building toward this for 7 years. He had rehearsed it. He was certain of it. Catherine let him finish. She let the motion sit in the air of the room for exactly 4 seconds, long enough for everyone present to understand that she had heard it, long enough for Bennett to settle into the assumption that the next sounds would be procedural challenge, defensive maneuvering, the kind of resistance that confirmed his advantage. Then she said, "Before the floor proceeds to a vote, I invoke procedural right to introduce a material disclosure under Article 9 of the Shareholder Agreement, pertaining to new information bearing directly on the composition of voting rights in this room." The temperature of the room changed, not dramatically, not with noise. The way temperature changes in a space when a window is opened and outside air enters, gradual, total, impossible to reverse. Bennett's expression did not move, but something behind his eyes recalculated at speed. Catherine said, "I would like to ask Mr. Aaron Brooks to address the assembly." Aaron stood. He did not look at Lucas Bennett. He looked at the room, at the institutional representatives, at the board members, at the compliance officer along the back wall, at Madison Cole with her recorder. He looked at 63 people who had come into this room operating on a version of events that was not the actual one, and who were about to understand that. He set the folder on the table and opened it. Grace moved to the projection system. The screens came to life. The first document was the original operating agreement, signed by Joseph Hale and Daniel Brooks in the company's founding year. 2 names, 2 signatures. Equal weight on every page. The room looked at it. Several people leaned forward. The second document was the founding equity allocation. Daniel Brooks's stake, clearly recorded, predating every subsequent revision by 3 years. The third was the probate filing, the trust instrument, the beneficiary identified first by initials, then by full legal name in the certification that followed. Aaron Rowe Brooks. The fourth was the legal chain. 14 years of corporate restructuring laid alongside the trust's documented continuity. Each reorganization, each audit, each selective editorial decision that had removed Daniel Brooks from the company's official history, placed beside the legal record that proved the trust had survived all of it intact. The fifth was the independent legal certification, executed 72 hours prior, filed with the regulatory authority that same morning. Grace let it sit on the screens for a long moment before she advanced to the final line. Aaron Rowe Brooks held voting rights representing 17% of Hale Motion Group's outstanding shares. The room absorbed this in silence. 17%. In a room where the margin between the current board majority and a viable challenge had been, before this morning, less than 4. The arithmetic was not complicated. Every person at the table did it in under 10 seconds. Lucas Bennett stood. He began speaking about procedural validity, the timing of the disclosure, the requirement for independent verification. His voice carried its usual authority, but the architecture beneath it had developed a fault line, and the room could hear it, the way you hear a crack in a structure before you can see it. Catherine said, Independent verification was completed 72 hours ago and is on file with the regulatory authority as of this morning. The documentation is complete. The voting rights are valid and enforceable. Bennett turned to Aaron. For the first time in the exchange, something that was not composure appeared on his face. Something older and less managed. The expression of a man who has spent decades arranging outcomes in advance and is standing in a room where the arrangement has failed. Aaron looked at him directly. "The company my father built," he said quietly, "does not belong to you." He did not say it with anger. There was no performance in it, no triumph. He said it the way a person states something that has been true for a long time and is finally being acknowledged in the correct room, by the correct people, in the correct words. The sentence landed and stayed. Catherine then presented the second body of evidence, the internal correspondence. 7 years of proxy manipulation laid out in sequence. The offshore instrument chains, the documented pattern of operational interference, the board dinners, the filtered communications, the manufactured pressure on institutional representatives, the vehicle sabotage, confirmed by Sebastian from his position along the wall, with technical specificity that left no procedural room for alternative interpretation. The room did not erupt when it was over. Rooms rarely do when something hidden for a long time is finally brought into light. What the room did was quieter and more complete. A stillness settled over it. A collective, simultaneous understanding that the version of events everyone had been operating within was not the actual one. That the floor of this company had been built on a story that had been deliberately, carefully, and profitably falsified. Lucas Bennett left the room, flanked by 2 individuals from the company's legal department and 1 from an external firm. He did not speak as he walked out. He did not look back. The door closed behind him with a sound that was entirely ordinary and felt like nothing that had ever happened in this room before. Catherine stood at the head of the table in the silence that followed and looked at Aaron across its length. 8 days ago, she had looked at this man for 3 seconds in a lobby and looked away. She had spoken his name once, to ask Grace whether he was the best available option. She had dismissed him in a hotel corridor in front of witnesses because his daughter's school pickup had inconvenienced her schedule. She was looking at him now with the full, undefended attention of someone who has been wrong about something in a way that reorganizes their understanding of most things that came before it. The room around them was already beginning to move, board members leaning toward each other, phones lifted, the machinery of consequence beginning its work. Madison Cole had already stepped into the corridor with her recorder and was speaking in a low, rapid voice. In the middle of all of it, Aaron looked back at Catherine across the oval table. No expression of victory, no expectation of acknowledgement. The same patient, undecorated attention he had been offering since the first morning, when she had walked past him in the lobby and he had held open the car door and said nothing. He had always known who he was. She was only now beginning to understand what that meant. Outside, the city moved through its ordinary Thursday. Trucks, crosswalks, the flat autumn light pressing through the glass in long, indifferent sheets. Inside the room, something that had been wrong for 14 years had finally been corrected. And 2 people who had arrived at this moment from opposite directions stood on the same side of it for the first time.